I feel for these people. Many of these people are my friends, and I know they are getting many concerns and many wishes expressed to them from their constituents. But, you know, their answer has been to conduct yet another audit led by a guy who indulges in Hugo Chavez conspiracy theories. My answer is simply to tell the truth. Tell these people, I am so sorry. You have been lied to repeatedly over the last 6 months, and my heart feels for you. It's a lie.
What a novel idea. I am so sorry you've been lied to. That was the head of the Maricopa County, Arizona Elections Department expressing his anger and disappointment with leaders who peddled Trump's big lie of a stolen election. More than 6 months after the election, the fallout from Trump's conspiracies is everywhere, from the faux audit of millions of ballots in Arizona to the wave of voter suppression bills predicated on a lie filed in 47 state houses all across this country by Republicans who cite concerns over the non-existent election integrity concerns stoked by the big lie. As part of a push for accountability for the big lie's biggest promoters, Democratic officials have filed motions in court to sanction the lawyers and the plaintiffs who brought some of the dozens of lawsuits seeking to overturn the election results. Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro is just one of the leaders who has filed motions against the big lie, specifically against Rudy Giuliani and his conduct during and after the 2020 election. And joining us now is Pennsylvania's Attorney General Josh Shapiro. You and I were talking in real time, but Pennsylvania really was the test state for this push to delegitimize the election result from the earliest days after the election. And I wonder how it feels now.
Well, you know, you and I did talk in real time as these issues were being litigated and the elections were being certified. And that's exactly what happened. We had a smooth and safe election. The results were certified. The issues were litigated. And yet the big lie continues even to this day, Nicole, where you have this big lie fueled on in part by Donald Trump, but also in part by the unethical conduct of some attorneys, Rudy Giuliani and others. And it seems to me that we can't allow them to use the courts of the United States to perpetuate that big lie and to do so without any consequence. They have not only harmed our democracy, but they've cost taxpayers here in Pennsylvania and across the country millions and millions of dollars.
And they threaten all of us. There's an intersection with the big lie and the current domestic violent extremism threat. But you've written a letter for the ages. I want to read some of it. Mr. Giuliani peddled false claims both in and out of court that ex-President Trump had in fact won the presidential election or that he was the victim of widespread voter fraud. Neither, of course, is true. And although Mr. Giuliani's lies predictably failed to convince any judge to disregard the voters' will, his abusive misuse of courts had serious consequences. Pennsylvania election workers have received death threats from individuals convinced of the truth of Mr. Giuliani's lies. And Pennsylvania spent more than $3 million on outside attorneys to respond to election-related lawsuits, including more than $1.7 million to respond to lawsuits brought by the Trump campaign. These consequences must not be ignored. What is the precedent for, I mean, I know all this is unprecedented, but you can't just go to court knowingly making up gobbledygook. I mean, what is your degree of optimism that there will be some sanction for Giuliani?
We do have an anti-gobbledygook rule in all of our courts, our state courts and our federal courts, Nicole. And the reality is Rudy Giuliani took it to a level never seen before, in my estimation. And the consequences, of course, you can draw a straight line between what he was saying in court here in Pennsylvania, what he was saying on the stump, and ultimately what happened on the steps of our Capitol and inside the Capitol on January the 6th. We appealed to the proper disciplinary board in New York State, who oversee Rudy Giuliani's license, to simply say, don't look the other way. Make sure that there are consequences for this type of conduct. We do not allow this in our courts here in Pennsylvania or in our federal courts, and there must be consequences. Part of the reason why the big lie has been able to take hold with some is because they've been able to use the institutions of our democracy to perpetuate those untruths, including our courts. We have rules against that, and those rules need to be applied to Rudy Giuliani, as well as the others that we've sought sanctions from.
When you look at the national picture, the big lie has done more in a shorter amount of time to push through a Republican agenda than really anything that I can think of. 47 states are looking at close to 400 voter suppression laws to solve a problem that is non-existent. There is not widespread voter fraud that needs a legislative solution. It's a crime, and we have a criminal justice system that catches and prosecutes anyone that happens to do that. And as far as what we've seen, most of those people happen to be people that cast illegal votes for Donald Trump. So I wonder when you sort of step back, and I know this isn't your day job, but when you look at the national picture, do you feel like the big lie is winning or the people protecting the democracy are winning?
I think the people protecting our democracy certainly are winning and have won as a result of the fact that Donald Trump was not able to cling to power. But make no mistake, so much damage has been done. I mean, let's examine the record, as you correctly noted here in Pennsylvania. We looked into allegations of voter fraud. We and our law enforcement partners, there was no widespread voter fraud. We found 3 examples of voter fraud, and in all 3 cases, they were trying to cast a ballot, an extra ballot for Donald Trump. Yet all of the major candidates for the United States Senate and the governorship here in Pennsylvania on the Republican side can't come together and acknowledge the simple truth that there was no widespread voter fraud, that Joe Biden won this election, and they can't condemn the big lie, mainly because the Republican Party has been hijacked by Donald Trump. They are afraid of him. They can't win a primary without him, and I don't think they can win many general elections with him. He is toxic, not just to our democracy, but to the Republican Party. That's what's playing out. Now, while all that political stuff plays out, we want to make sure that the lawyers who engaged in this unethical practice, unethical conduct, and who tried to undermine our democracy through the use of the courts, that they are held accountable in this process as well. That can't be ignored.
When you look at the real focus on election officials and people that have your job, and people that serve as secretaries of state, what is, in your view, the most egregious sort of lasting damage? I mean, we talk about death threats now. It doesn't even leave the news anymore. But I remember when Gabrielle Sterling, an election official in Georgia, came out and said someone's going to get shot. We all took notice, and we broke into our coverage and covered that. You've now got a fake audit where they're looking for bamboo by a company called Cyber Ninjas, founded by a conspiracy theorist. He has in his hands 2.1 million Maricopa County ballots. I mean, where have we lost the thread on just how scary and dangerous this is?
It's super scary and dangerous. And really, we have to salute the heroes of this election cycle, the poll workers, Republicans and Democrats, people like Al Schmidt in Philadelphia and Katie Hobbs in Arizona. You're talking about Maricopa County. I mean, really some Jocelyn Benson in Michigan, just some incredible leaders who were secretaries of state, and of course, many attorneys general and governors as well, who made sure that the rule of law held in these states. But real damage has been done here. I mean, the fact that people question the integrity of this process that is run by our neighbors, that has been secure and safe and sound, where there's no evidence that anything was stolen the way Donald Trump suggests, that's a real detriment to our democracy. But yet, look, I voted today in our municipal primary here in Pennsylvania, yet these great Americans come back and work the polls and make sure that people's voices have been heard. And we are bigger than Donald Trump. We are bigger than the big lie. It is certainly infecting our democracy and poisoning the Republican Party right now. But we're bigger than that, and we will overcome this. The best way to overcome it, though, is to have accountability in our system for the lawyers who perpetuated the big lie, for the politicians who enable it, and to make sure that there is an honest conversation about what happened in these courtrooms in Pennsylvania and what happened on January 6th at the Capitol, and the connection between the two. There's a direct causal connection between the two. It must be explored, and people must be held accountable.
Well, I appreciate your optimism on a day like today when we're covering Kevin McCarthy blowing up the bipartisan commission. We will continue to call on you. Pennsylvania's Attorney General Josh Shapiro, thank you for spending some time with us today.